Hello everyone, this is Steve. Thanks for joining me. We're going to graph a polynomial, this polynomial, g of x, which has already been completely factored for us. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to do is identify the leading coefficient of this polynomial. Now, if you look in front of all the factors, you actually see a 2x squared. But the leading coefficient never has an x in it. A leading coefficient is always just a number. So the leading coefficient is actually just the 2, not the 2x squared. Then we'll identify the degree of our polynomial. The degree of our polynomial is found by adding up the powers on the different factors. Now it turns out that that x squared in front does count as a factor, so the powers we're going to add up are 2, 3, 2, and 3. 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 is going to be 10, which means we have a positive leading coefficient, and we have an even degree, which tells us that our end behavior is going to be up on both sides. There's only 4 types of end behavior, and they're determined by whether the leading coefficient is positive or negative, and whether the degree is even or odd. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be the zeros. And I like to write them from smallest to largest. So the first 0 is actually going to be found by looking at this factor right here, and it's going to be -5. Now, the next 0 is actually found by looking at this x squared right here. When you see an x squared like that, even though it's never written like this, it's actually like x minus 0 squared. So really 0, the number 0, is one of our zeros. So we put a 0 right there as one of our zeros. It just means that our graph is going to cross the x-axis or hit the x-axis and bounce off, in this case, at the origin. Okay, next one is going to be 2, because of this guy right here, and the next one's going to be 5, because of this guy right here. All right, every one of those are x-intercepts. Check it out. Our first x-intercept is -5, 0. Then 0, 0, the origin. 2, 0, 5, 0. Multiplicities, just look at the powers on the different factors. So let's see here. That's going to be a 3, because x plus 5 had a 3 on it. The x in front was squared, so the multiplicity on the 0 is 2. The multiplicity on the 2 is going to be 3, because x minus 2 had a power of 3. And x minus 5 has a power of 2, so that one gets a 2. Safety check, 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 10. Equals our degree again, so we're in good shape. Now we get different behavior depending on what our multiplicity is. So when your multiplicity is 1, which doesn't come up at all in this example, you cross the x-axis. But when it's even, you bounce, or touch and turn around. And when it's an odd number that is bigger than 1, like 3, 5, or 7, like that, then you do what we call the cross and flatten. I've actually heard some people call this the wiggle, but I call it the cross and flatten. All right, everyone, that's going to be enough information to go to our graph, so let's draw a picture. Okay, so my end behavior is going to be up on both sides, so I'll put in these little indicator arrows to remind myself of that. And my x-intercepts are at -5, 0, 0 right here at the origin. And then we also have one at 2, 3, 4, 5, and another one at 5. So I don't have to keep going back and forth. I put in my little verbiage here to let me know what I'm supposed to do at each x-intercept. So since this was a multiplicity of 3 and -5, I'm going to do a cross and flatten. And then the one at the origin, I'm going to do a bounce. And then the one at 2, I'm going to do a cross and flatten. And then the one at 5, I'm going to do another bounce. These crosses and flattens and the bounces, once again, we have to be very, very careful that we plan ahead before we actually get to our x-intercept. Because if I just come right down on it like that and then try to do a cross and flatten, I end up with something really gross like that that just is not right and is not considered correct. So let's not do that. If we're going to do a cross and flatten, come down here like we're going to do a bounce, nice and smooth right on through. I knew to start up above because of my indicator arrow I drew right here. Okay, my next x-intercept is going to be at the origin, and I'm going to bounce. So keeping a nice smooth curve, I come up here and bounce. Then before I get too far, I look what I'm going to have to do with the next x-intercept at 2. I'm going to have to do a cross and flatten. So keeping this nice and smooth, I still come up early, So I can do a cross and flatten. Nice and smooth. Looks like it's going to be a bounce. Here we go. And that's going to finish it up. Nice smooth curve, smooth and continuous, crossing and flattening where I was supposed to and bouncing where I was supposed to. That's it. I hope that helped. Thanks for watching.